Welcome. How many of you have meditation experience? Any brand new folks? Brand new. Okay, great. All right, that'll be good. Okay, well, we're going to learn some basic techniques, mantra and breath awareness meditations. And these are techniques that I've been practicing for the last 12 years. And I use them every day, and I get the same results. So when I teach them to people, it's really nice to see when you use it consistently, you also get the same results. Also, these are great meditation techniques to do after a yoga routine. So as Sonya and I are going to do when we co-teach, she's going to do the hatha yoga routine, then we're going to shavasana, and then we're going to sit up and do these same meditation techniques. Now, the theme for this retreat is transformation and manifestation. And meditation is so crucial to this because you can't create anything in your consciousness unless there's a strong groove for that, or if your consciousness needs to be clear enough for it to come into manifestation. And a lot of people have crazy minds, they're stressed out, they're still dealing with traumas from childhood. When they go to sleep at night, they're always thinking about new and different things or stressful things. And you can pretty much tell the state of a person's life by the state of their mind. All right? So whether it's for relationships or business, health, if a person has a very clear vision of whatever it is they want to experience in their consciousness, that is what they'll experience. And when we're learning to meditate, essentially what we're doing is we're learning to let our bodies relax while sitting up straight, taking a look at the mind, see what's in the mind, what's within the emotions, and whatever turbulence is in there, we're letting it dissipate. So essentially we're emptying ourselves out. Now, the first step is always emptying yourself out. Because, you know, if you have all this confusion in there, if you have all this angst or depression or whatever it might be, you can't create something very powerful within your life, usually. All right. Now, the first basic technique we're going to go over is alternate nostril breathing. Have any of you done that in yoga class before? Okay. Now this is a really wonderful technique because what it does is it balances the left and right hemispheres of the brain. And when your left and right hemispheres are balanced, you think more clearly, you're more effective within the world, and you make better choices. All right. Along with this, what we're going to be doing is focusing our attention on the forehead, or the spiritual eye center, or the frontal lobes of the brain. And the reason we do this is because it helps us stay alert and awake, and it helps us to very quickly go into a deep meditative state. Now, there have been some studies done on this part of the brain where basically criminals, they took a brain scan of criminals, people in prisons, and what they found is that within these criminals, the frontal lobes of the brain wasn't very activated. It wasn't very strong. And what the frontal lobes do is it increases optimism, it increases a person's ability to make good choices, and it allows them to plan their life better. It takes care of impulsiveness as well. Okay. So anyway, the more a person meditates and they activate this part of their brain, the smoother their life goes because they're able to make better decisions because they don't have a whole lot of static going on in their consciousness, right? So whenever we're meditating, all we want to do is keep our awareness gently at this area of the brain, and in time it will develop that area of the brain. And I have some really neat stories about this. One in particular, my meditation teacher, he told me about bringing your awareness up here and chanting Om to perk yourself up if you're sleepy or to get into a deeper state. And I remembered that, but I never did it. Until one day I had this experience where I was laying down sleeping, taking a nap, and my brain woke up, I think, before my body did. And I couldn't move, but I could kind of see out of the slits of my eyes a little bit. I was paralyzed. It's called hypnagogic sleep experience. And has any of you ever had that before? When you were taking a nap or waking up? Any of you ever had that? Yeah, it's really weird. Okay. Yeah, if you've ever just woken up and you think you're awake, but you're like, you can't move. And anyway, I remembered him telling me, bring your awareness up here. So I brought my awareness up here and I started like chanting Om, or looking pretend my eyes are closed. I was looking slightly up, out through my spiritual eye center, or the frontal lobe of the brain, and I woke up instantly. I woke up, I looked around, I thought to myself, all right, well, I'm still tired, so I went back to sleep. And it happened again. I was paralyzed again. And what I found was whenever I ate onions or garlic, that's usually when it happened. All right. So anyway, I found that by bringing my awareness up here, I can pop out of those states. Also, if you're ever in a bad mood, or if you're ever anxious, or you're ever depressed, if you just simply bring your awareness up here and just imagine that you're breathing through this space, you'll get out of it a lot quicker. I don't know why. Even when you go to sleep at night, if you're laying in bed and you're going to sleep, if you just bring your awareness up here and you breathe through this space, you'll wake up happier in the morning. It's a strange thing, but in my life I've suffered from depression and anxiety, which is why I got into meditation, and have found that it works almost 90% of the time. So don't underestimate the power of just bringing your awareness up here to this point. All right. So anyway, that was a long way around to the alternate nostril breathing. Alternate nostril breathing, there are a number of different ways that it's taught with hand positions and so on. I keep it pretty basic. All you're going to be doing is breathing in through one nostril, holding the breath for an instant, exhaling through the opposite nostril, holding the breath for an instant, breathing back in through the same nostril, and then out again where you started. And how do you do that? You take your thumb, you close one side of your nose, you breathe in, you close the opposite side, you breathe out. You breathe in again, close the opposite side, and you breathe out. Okay. That's one round of alternate nostril breathing. Does everyone understand that? Is it pretty simple? Okay. Now, typically it's recommended to do alternate nostril breathing 12 to 24 times. Now, instead of getting all in your head and counting, there's an extremely easy way to do this. If you look at your hands, you've got segments in your fingers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, right? The little bones in your fingers. So what you can do is put your thumb on one little bone here. Go through the process. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. And exhale. That's number one. So to do number two, you just move your thumb down to that next little section and you do it again. And so by the time you've gone through all 12 digits, you've done 12 repetitions. And usually that'll be about 7 minutes. For me, it's about 7 minutes, 7 to 10 minutes. So it's a great way to get into a meditation practice. Now, after we go through the alternate nostril breathing, the next pranayama we want to do is what's called sushumna breathing. And this takes some imagination. So essentially, when you're sitting up straight, you're going to be feeling the spine. So if you imagine the base of the spine, imagine it, there's a hollow tube up through the spine, up to the very crown of the head. And when you're inhaling, what you're going to do is you're going to inhale a little deeper than normal, and you're going to imagine that you are pulling a cool electrical current up through the spine, almost like cool, soothing water, up to the top on the inhale. Hold the breath just for an instant, and then you're going to exhale and let it flow down like warm, soothing water, down through the spine to the base. So some people can actually really feel this when they practice it the first time. If you can't feel it, don't worry about it. You just want to have your awareness in the spine. And when you inhale, you imagine that you're pulling this cool electrical current up through a tube in the spine to the top of the head. Hold the breath for an instant. Exhale and let it flow down like warm, soothing water, all the way back down to the base of the spine. Okay? Now this is another technique that's recommended to do 12 to 24 times. So the same thing, you can bring it in once, let it flow down, move your finger to the next little section, pull it up, let it flow down, and so on until you get to 12. All right? And we'll go over this together when we go through the actual practice, so don't stress about it yet. And at the very end of this process, what you're going to do is you're going to breathe in and you're going to pull this current up through the spine, all the way to the crown of the head, and on the very last time, you're going to hold it here. So you're just going to keep your awareness here, and then you're going to let your body breathe normally, so there's no more attention on the breath. You're just going to sit with your awareness here. All right? Now, this is kind of a fascinating spot too. One of my favorite teachers, Ramana Maharshi, said, if you could simply sit with your awareness here at the crown and be still, you could very easily experience the superconscious or enlightened or very clear state. However, it's so simple, it's hard, right? Because we have all these distractions. But if you just can hold your awareness up here for long enough, you'll experience a state of boundlessness, a state of connection to all of life. And it's not just because of the practice, the spiritual practice, but it's also because the area of the brain that gets stimulated when you're feeling this part deals with being able to sense your boundaries. So when this gets stimulated, usually the person has no sense of their body or the boundaries of their body to the rest of the world. So there's a sense of expansiveness and being one with everything. So that's where this one with everything experience comes from, which is really fascinating. Okay, that's number 2. Final technique we're going to use is just simple mantra. And the mantra I like to recommend for beginners is the So-Hum mantra. And so what you do is after you've brought your awareness up here for a little while, we'll just sit. You'll get this in the practice. We'll just sit with our awareness up here, breathing, experiencing. And then before we conclude, we turn our attention to our breath. And on the inhale, you hear the word or syllable so. So inhale and you hear so within your consciousness. When you exhale, you imagine that you hear the word or the syllable hum. So the mantra is so hum, basically. All right. Okay, so we're going to go over this in a practice session, but before we do, I want to tie this into the transformation and manifestation portion. So number 1, you can't change your consciousness very quickly until you empty it out. And when you're meditating, you're emptying it out. And so that means that when you're meditating, if you have a lot of thoughts, if you have a lot of emotions or distractions, that's perfectly fine and that's perfectly natural. That's your consciousness pouring out its garbage, basically. So don't think that you're doing a bad job if you have distractions that come up. Stick with the technique, and eventually they'll settle, and you'll experience a very clear state. So that's what you're aiming for. All right. Now, once that's occurred, then we work on the manifestation aspect. And this is kind of retraining your inner consciousness. And we've got little journals. If you've got journals, use it. Basically what you want to do is think of 3 things this week that you want to experience in your life. Whether it's better health in a certain area, better relationships, career, spirituality, whatever it might be. Think of 3 specific things that you want to experience. And what you're going to do is you're going to write them down. And write them down, let me give you a good example. One of the things I wrote down a couple years ago, because I had some health issues, was experiencing radiant health, enjoying being in my body, and having such a strong body that I could enjoy doing other things in life. So I wrote that down. And after I got done meditating, what I would do is for 2 minutes, I would look at that phrase that I wrote down, and I would read it over, feel it in my mind, hear it in my mind, and I would imagine what would it feel like if I had that, right? What would it feel like? What would I be doing if I had that? And this is where the idea of health and healing comes into play. A lot of people get involved in health and healing, and they're trying to fix their problems, right? They see their problems, and they're trying to say, I want to fix this, I want to change that. But really what they miss is that health isn't about focusing on health. You're supposed to have good health so you can do things in life, right? So if in your mind's eye, if in your consciousness you can feel, I want to go running every day, or I want to play, music on Sundays with my friends, or I really want to enjoy going hiking with my spouse, or whatever it might be. If you focus on that, your body has to change to make it possible for you, right? So you don't want to say, I need to get rid of this cancer. I need to stop having migraine headaches. You don't want to say it that way. You want to think about why is it you want to be healthy and focus on that, and that's what gets you going in that direction. Do you see what I'm talking about here? Does this make sense? Okay. For example, if money is something that you're interested in, you don't want to say, I want to make X amount of dollars every year, every month, because that's kind of flat. There's a reason you want to have that money, right? So you need to think about what would your life be like if you had that. Same thing with spirituality. If you want to know God, if you want to know your connection to yourself, if you want more peace of mind, why do you want that? What is it that would allow you to do within your life if you had that peace and that contentment? How would you be? And this is what your phrases need to be about. Okay. Any questions about that? Does this make sense?
Do you feel like it needs to be very specific, or can it be more like a...
I do think it needs to be specific, but you bring up a good point with the like the not knowing, because so many people think about what they want, but they're not really sure. And if you think about something that you weren't really sure about, you also had a feeling of uncertainty, right? So one of the things that you might write down, even if you don't have it in your mind yet exactly what it is, you need to feel, I'm certain of what I want. And you need to feel that certainty. And then what that's doing is that's allowing your consciousness to give you the opportunity to discover what that is. So if you hold that feeling of uncertainty, you're going to stay in a state of uncertainty. But if you even if you don't know what it is, if you just hold that feeling of certainty, I do know what I want. Even if you just say that, that will lead you to inspiration or inner guidance in regards to what that thing is. So you never want to hold the feeling that you don't know, unless you like it. Because if you hold the feeling of you don't know, you will always have experiences that kind of support that for you. So, what's that?
I guess you would, in your case, you would ask for like clarity, or
right.
That's what you would wish for.
Yeah, and you would also, the key is to feel as though you have it already.
Right.
It's always I've already got it. You know, this is what it would feel like if I had it. And what we have to remember is with this whole practice, the more you meditate, the clearer you get. You realize that you're not just this body and this personality. You're actually a part of everything. And so your mind might not know everything, but the rest of you does. And if you can trust that the rest of you that does is working with you, you'll get the experiences you need. I know it's strange, but hey, we're in Costa Rica, so we can talk like this, right? But it's true. It's true. Because essentially, if you think about it this way, if we use the word the divine, and we think about ourselves, we think about our body, we wouldn't stick our hands in the fire, even though we don't think that's us exactly. If we got our hand chopped off, we would still be us. But we don't stick our hand in the fire because it is a part of us, right? And so the more that you meditate, the clearer you get. You're less harmful to other people because you feel as though they are a part of you, right? And the weird thing that happens is the more you feel that, the more supportive they will be of you. You will meet people. People will say things to you that just come out of the blue that's exactly what you needed. A few years ago, I was going through a little bit of a difficult time, and I was at the Y. I was completely naked. I was in my sandals. I just got out of the steam room. I was spinning my shorts in the little thing to dry it out. And this guy comes up to me and he says, "Do you do yoga?" And I thought, it's kind of a weird question to ask me while I'm standing here naked. And I said, "Sometimes." And he said, I started doing yoga a couple years ago. I had broken my back. I forget what he said he was doing. Oh, he was using one of those things that wax floors, and it got caught on something, and this thing threw him against the wall and broke his back. And the doctor told him that he wouldn't be able to walk again. And what he told me was, he said, when I realized that I had to know that I could get better, that's when I started to make changes. That's when my body started to heal itself. And that's exactly what I needed to hear at that moment. So here I am in the Y, in a little bit of a funky state. And because I meditated that morning, because I had this sense of connection, this random fellow comes up to me and makes a weird comment, but it's the exact thing that I need to hear. So you'll find that you have more of these synchronicities, as you go through life and as you get clear and expand your consciousness and so on. So anyway, think about what it is you want to experience, and I recommend only writing 3 things down. And what you're going to do is this week when we meditate or on your own, if you have an alarm clock, I use my BlackBerry, I set the timer for 2 minutes. I look at that, I focus on it, I say it over in my mind, I imagine what it would feel like if that was the case. After the timer goes off, I move on to the second one, 2 minutes. After the timer goes off, I move on to the third one, 2 minutes. After that, I don't think about it anymore until tomorrow. So what you're doing here, you're not obsessing about something. You're bringing it into your consciousness. It's like planting a seed. It's like planting a seed. And so if you think about planting a garden or any kind of seeds, you plant it and you let it go. You don't keep digging it up every 3 days to see if it's growing or not, right? Okay, so that's what we're doing here. We're just planting them daily. And I would say do it for 40 days. Do it for a month or so. Let it go and see what kind of opportunities come into your life. And after that, you have to be responsive to the opportunities that come into your life. And so if we take, for example, health or having a better heart, say you want to improve your heart, you want to improve your stamina so you can enjoy life better. Well, if your friend comes over and says, hey, want to go work out or want to do this activity, that is your opportunity. And you have to act on it. Because if you don't act on these things when they come up, you'll stop getting the opportunities. So step 1, meditate, get clear. Be comfortable in the clarity. As clear as you can be, so just do your best. Once you're in the clarity, bring your awareness to the thing you want to focus on, your word or word phrase. 2 minutes every day on each one. And then as you're going through your day, don't think about it, but just watch for opportunities that will help you get to where you want to go. And they will show up. Okay. So why do we do this thing called meditation? People do it for a number of reasons. But the best reason is so that you learn what you are and you get control of your consciousness. When we began this meditation, I had you think about your personality, see your personality. And if you think about it, when you remember being 3 years old or 4 years old or 5 years old, when you really think about it, aside from the body being different, do you really feel any different than when you were that young? I mean, inside, you still feel like you, right? My meditation teacher, he's in his 80s now, and he says the same thing. He says, you look in the mirror and you've got gray hair and more wrinkles, but you still feel like the same being. And that being, which experiences all these changes, that was there when you were dreaming. That was there when you were young. It will be there when you die. It will be there before you were born. And when we're meditating, when we're really, really getting to the crux of it, we're learning to identify with that eternal presence which is always there no matter what. And the reason this is so freeing and so helpful is because once you have that identification, it doesn't matter so much what happens out in this world. Because whether you get money, whether you don't get money, whether you have love, don't have love, whether the world congratulates you, whether you're just someone that no one knows about, it doesn't matter because you are aware of exactly what you are. And once you have that perspective, you realize you have an eternity to do whatever you want. You have a long time, right? So if it's not this lifetime, it'll be the next lifetime. And that's kind of comforting, right? It's comforting to know that you have all that time. And with yoga, what most people sort of leave out that I've noticed is the idea that you need to get a hold of your consciousness, meaning that most people go through life on autopilot and they're just letting things happen. They're either trying to do the wrong things and they're failing, or they don't know what they're doing, or they're just letting the rest of the world direct them, telling them what to do. And the thing is, once you get that state of clarity, you realize that you can do anything that you want, right? You can do anything that you want, and you get that freedom to decide. And that can be choosing your mental states, choosing the experiences in life, choosing whether you're going to be successful or not. And all this comes around to that idea of transformation manifestation, which is what this retreat is about. Again, before you can transform anything or manifest anything, you have to know what you are, because otherwise you'll have this sense that you're a limited individual being which is trying to make something happen in the world, rather than understanding that you are limitless, that if you just get your mind clear, you can tap into the rest of you, and the rest of you are all of you, right? So for me, you're all part of myself. You're all the people in the world. You're the ocean, you're the breeze, you're the trees, you're everything. And once you get in harmony with that, if you decide you want to experience something, the rest of you moves the world to give it to you. Because it's you anyway. You're always providing for yourself. So if you ever think about times where you've had lack, or you've had sadness, or you've had sorrow, believe it or not, on some level you're doing it to yourself because you like it. It's a weird thought, but it's true. And how do you know that's the case? Because if you think about something you really don't like, don't you try to get away from it? I mean, something that you really don't like. If it's an annoying person, or if you're baking in the sun, you will take the steps to remove yourself from that situation and put yourself somewhere that you do like. You always do that. And when you're in for some reason we think that like finances and a relationship or career, that's any different. It's not. It's all the same thing. The problem is that sometimes it takes a while to get you from where you are to where you want to be, and people are impatient. Whenever you're working on your 3 things that you wrote down, the things that you want to change or the things that you want to experience, you have to look at it in perspective. For example, 3 years ago, Sonya brought up this idea of doing this retreat here, or somewhere in Costa Rica. And she talked about it, and she talked about it. I thought, well, when is she going to do it, right? And then what happened was she held it within her mind, and eventually the circumstances unfolded in which it occurred, and so we're all here, which is kind of fascinating. Whenever you meditate, you always want to remember that the purpose of meditation is not to get more stuff or to change or make things better. The purpose of meditation itself is to experience this state of wholeness, clarity, and peace. And then once you experience that, then you come back into your embodied life, your role that you play, and you decide what you want to experience in life. And that's part of your practice too, right? The reason they call these great yogis and masters is because they know what they are, and they direct their consciousness to experience what they want in life. You know, whether you're a sage or a saint, whether you're a good person or a bad person, it doesn't matter as long as you know what you are inside. As long as you know what you are. And this is really important because a lot of people on the spiritual path, they get this idea that they have to act a certain way. They can't do certain things, they have to present themselves in a certain role and so on. But the most spiritual people I've ever met are folks who don't look like it at all. They're business people, they're normal people. You talk to them and you realize, wow, they've got it figured out. They're not walking around being all, holy, They're just living their life. And we're all here to live some portion of the infinite consciousness. That is why we're here. We're all part of this infinite consciousness, and we have a role to play. Whether that's being an astrologer or a meditation teacher, whether it's being a real estate agent, whether it's being a doctor, whatever it is, we all have a role to play. And the more we're able to get clear, we're able to choose the path that will lead us to that fulfillment, and then life itself becomes part of the awakening process. And once you get to that point, meditation becomes enjoyable. Meaning, if you like taking a hot bath, it's just like taking a deep breath, and you think, I'm going to sit and I'm going to meditate for a while. And you love it because you're going deep into the self and it's comfortable. And then when you come back out of it, you realize, I've got things to do, but it's no different than my meditation. I'm just doing what the rest of me wants to do. I'm playing my role within this world, and that's the most important part. So whatever you're doing, don't worry about it. You're playing your role, and that's the most important thing. Okay. Now, I wanted to share that only because I didn't want you to think that I'm a fan of The Secret. I like The Secret. I think it's a good idea. But with that spin, usually it's more about getting more things versus the experience of just having that internal peace. And as we mentioned last night, whenever you're thinking about what you want to manifest or what you want to experience, you don't want to think about specific, extremely tangible things. You want to think about how do you want to be living your life and what is the state of consciousness you want to feel. Do you want to feel tranquility? Do you want to feel peace? If you say you want $1 million, that may not give you tranquility or peace, right? But if you understand that what you want to experience is tranquility and peace or more success within the world, then what you're doing is you're opening up yourself to opportunities which will bring it to you in the way that's most sustainable for your life in this world. You follow that logic? Does this make sense? Okay. So always remember, when you're thinking about what you want, don't think about the steps in between. You want that money, or you want that good relationship, or you want that retreat in Costa Rica so that you can meditate for hours a day because you want something else, which is usually more peace or more clarity. So the idea is, what is the state that I want to experience? And then you focus on that. And then you'll get these ideas, such as writing a book, or moving somewhere, or taking another job, or meeting a new person. Those naturally come into your experience, right? So that's what I want to encourage you to do. Now, I've got my 11 things. I know I told you all to do 3, but when I wrote mine out, I just kept going. And the thing that I've noticed is when you write down what it is you want to experience in life, that's the first step, because it's putting it on paper. It's getting it from your mind into the real world, even though it's just writing. And the funny thing about it is after I wrote this, after I meditated these last couple of days, I would pull it out and I would focus on one, and I would just contemplate it. What would it be like? What would it feel like? And I would claim it to be true. I would feel as though it was real for me. And the funny thing are some of the projects that I wrote down in here, while they've been in my mind for a while, as soon as I wrote them down and I started thinking about them, I thought, oh, well, I should just start on it. I should just get out my computer and start, creating these different things that I want to do. It made the connection from this more ethereal space into the more concrete world. So write it down, and then slowly take steps to accomplish what you want to with it. Here's the thing. Have you ever been out in nature, someplace beautiful, whether it's a forest or a beach, and all you were aware of was the light on the trees, the wind, the water? You were aware of nothing else. You were just perfectly in nature. Have any of you experienced that before? That's the kind of stillness. What was that?
So today?
Today, yes. So remember that. That is the kind of stillness that comes over you in meditation, which is why when you get good at it, right now when you begin, you say sit for 20 minutes and people say, 20 minutes? That's a long time. But when you get good at it, you can stay there for a long time. You can stay there for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, and you're just right there. It's just that perfect peacefulness. And that's a nice space to be in. Don't overdo it, though. From my experience, it takes a few years to do that. So you want to start where you are, whether it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, and work up to where you want to be.